Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today we'll be talking about healer balance yet again. And I wanted to make this video because basically 8.3 is going to happen, and most likely is going to be a raid associated with it. And there's a lot of people that have been asking me about, is Holy Paladin still gonna have Glimmer of Light? How's Holy Paladin gonna do in 8.3? Considering that a lot of people have been calling for Glimmer of Light nerfs. And I wanted to talk about healer balance and healer meta in general, because you might be doing heroic content and you might not be aware of how imbalanced this game is in terms of high-end mythic raid content and high-end mythic plus. So first of all, let's go straight into it, because I did a video like this before, healer rankings for raids and mythic plus. And you can see here a very rough estimate of what the healer rankings are looking like based on the data that's available. It's not me just coming up with a ranking and saying, hey, I feel this healer is great. This is actually real player data. And this is basically the accumulation of all that data into this ranking. So you can see my Mythic Plus ranking could be a bit more detailed, but let's be honest, it's basically Resto, Druid, high-end content, and everyone else is trying to catch up. But let's look at the data behind this, and let's look at the rating scenario or mythic rating scenarios in terms of healer performance. And this here is really a poor representation of what healers are really strong. So if you're doing heroic content, disclaimer. If you're only doing heroic rating, if you're only doing like plus 10 mythic plus keys, stop this video and don't watch it anymore. None of these rankings are going to be applicable to you, because you can do all of that content with any healer that you want. This is mainly coming from high-end mythic rating and high-end mythic plus, because the imbalance is that poor. And I wanted to talk about how we can change this. So this is Eternal Palace mythic healer performance at the 75 percentile. So if you're an average player coming into mythic, this is the type of HPS that you're going to be seeing. This is really poor representation, because Holy Priest might be the second best in terms of pure HPS. They're probably last in terms of high-end progression viability. And you can see that because if I go to end bosses, things like Queen's Court, and if I actually look at the number of parses from all the healers, you can see that Holy Priest is really low, Druid is relatively low, Mistweaver Monk is relatively low. If I go to another harder boss like Zakul, you can see the same exact thing, where Druid, Monk, and Holy Priests are really poorly represented, and the same exact thing is gonna happen in Queen's Ashara boss encounter, where again it's dominated by Discipline Priests, dominated by Holy Paladins, and dominated by Resto Shamans. This is why I say that the ranking for mythic rating is Discipline Priest and Holy Paladin are probably at the top of their game right now, better than they ever were. And then you probably have Restoration Shaman because of its utility, because it's received certain buffs in the last couple of patches. All of a sudden you still see a Resto Shaman in there, which is great. It's not all about the pure HPS that you see on these charts. So you can see that Holy Paladin and Discipline Priest have been dominating high-end progression, and guilds like Method, Limit were stacking them. The most common raid healer composition was 2 Discipline Priests and 2 Holy Paladins. The number one reason, in my opinion, is going to be the DPS and healing combination of all these healers. So Holy Paladin and Discipline Priest will both do DPS in order to increase their healing. And you can see this very clearly in this DPS chart right here, with Discipline Priests and Holy Paladins are dominating the DPS charts. Now Resto Shaman can do similar DPS if they want to with Igneous Potential Azeroth traits. Again, this requires Resto Shaman to get Igneous Potential Azeroth traits, which removes their healing Azeroth traits. It also requires Resto Shaman to focus on healing. They can't, or focus on DPS. They cannot focus on healing and DPS at the same time. Unlike Discipline Priest and Holy Paladin. Holy Paladin can use Crusader Strike in order to reduce the cooldown of Light of Dawn and Holy Shock. And Discipline Priest, this is their niche. This is their whole niche of dealing damage. Their automats are going to heal based on how much damage they're doing. So they will focus their DPS in order to heal. They don't have to choose one or another. And the best example of this is Lady Asheville. When it first came out, Lady Asheville was insanely hard in terms of DPS requirement, and basically all of the top end guilds chose Holy Paladin and Discipline Priest in order to push Lady Asheville, because they can heal in DPS. You don't have to do that right now because it's easy requirements, people have more gear, etc, etc, etc. But overall, Paladin disc were key because of their DPS. Now the second thing I wanted to look at is damage reduction cooldowns. If we look at the healing for mythic content, you'll notice Holy Paladin is here, you know, notice Discipline Priest is not really doing that well. you have to consider, Holy Paladin does not have a healing cooldown that shows up on meters. A lot of these will be using Devotion Aura, which is the preferred cooldown for Holy Paladins in progression, in Mythic progression specifically. Same with Discipline Priest, they have a barrier, which is 25% damage reduction. It requires people to stack, does not show up on healing meters. To a similar extent, you can include Resto Shamans in this with Spirit Link. Spirit Link is a very potent cooldown, and it probably makes Resto Shaman, you know, that clear third healer or the best third healer. But overall, these healing meters, again, they're completely wrong because they don't show the damage reduction that's provided by Discipline Priests and Holy Paladins. A good raid leader will see how strong these damage reduction cooldowns are, and a great example is Zakul. On Zakul Mythic, you will get Dread, and to some extent, a lot of the Mythic raiders will opt in to use Tremor Totem, and this Dread debuff will get dispelled. Multiple people get it, and it's going to cause raid-wide AoE damage. Now, the fun bit is that at the start of the progression, you probably will not survive this without a certain personal cooldown or a damage reduction cooldown. So therefore, Holy Paladin Devo or a Discipline Priest barrier was so strong to survive this. This completely eliminates the need for a throughput healing cooldown like Revival, like Tranquility, because if you can't survive the hit, you can't be healed up. So there is more examples of this in every single patch, in every single raid boss that's released, where damage reduction cooldowns are just going to be outright better than healing HPS cooldowns. So this is why I talk about heroic, because in heroic healing meters, as you can see here, there's a lot different balance. You can see Holy Priest doing really well, Mistweavers, these are reactive type of healers, they're always going to perform better. So this is why I say that Blizzard might not take action against this, because why do I care about balancing Mythic and content where there's a small percentage of people playing it, while in heroic the balance is a lot better. The healer balance is actually relatively decent if you're doing heroic content. So there is an argument for Blizzard that they might not even look into high-end raiding because a small percentage of people play. So my possible solutions or how you could change this. If we really want to look at how we can improve healer balance, Blizzard has to decide of what to do. First of all, the healers that I mentioned, they do DPS and healing. Would they think about creating classes equal in terms of damage and healing? So for example, all of a sudden you might see Resto Druid, who will be able to do damage, and it'll also reduce their cooldowns, their healing cooldowns or something like that. All of a sudden, should Blizzard push, and this is not going to happen in 8.3, 100%, this is a big changes. This is going to go into the next expansion. Should Blizzard focus on making every single healing class being able to do DPS and also increase their healing in order to compete with Discipline Priest and Holy Paladin, because they can do that. And I'm talking about Glimmer of Light Holy Paladin, just to be sure. The normal version doesn't really exist in high-end progression. Should they do that? And I feel a lot of people might be against creating classes very similar to each other. Should they add, and this is another example that I can provide, should they give other healers more damage reduction cooldowns? Damage reduction cooldowns are so strong, especially during progression. Maybe Resto Druid should have a damage reduction cooldown. Maybe Holy Priest should have a damage reduction cooldown. And again, this is all probably going to go into the next expansion. And the last thing that we can talk about, and this might happen in patch 8.3. And I think this might actually happen because it's not a big change. Should there be a DPS healer tax? Should a healer who's able to do DPS in order to increase their healing have their healing reduced because they're doing DPS and healing at the same time? So this is looking at basically directly nerfing Holy Paladins and Disciplines. So this is very unpopular opinion because a lot of people will be, running Glimmer and things like that. And I enjoy Glimmer. I don't want Glimmer to disappear. But I feel that Blizzard might nerf Glimmer. And the specific reason is because they'll look at Mythic logs and they'll notice Holy Paladin with Glimmer of Light doing 20% more healing. And they might be, okay, Glimmer is a little bit too big. My guess is that with 8.3, Blizzard might nerf Glimmer to an extent that Glimmer is still going to be viable, but it's not going to be dominating healing meters that much. It's possible that they might add a mana tax, and this is another thing that I missed out on. Holy Paladins are the only healers in the game right now who really don't have mana issues whatsoever, which directly conflicts with Blizzard's initial mana design where, hey, doesn't matter what item level you are, you're always going to have mana issues. Your heals are going to heal for more, but your cost or mana cost of spells is going to be the same no matter what. Your base mana regen is going to be the same no matter what, unless you have trinkets and things like that. But that was Blizzard's initial mana design for healers, and Holy Paladin, Glimmer of Light is completely going against that. They don't have mana issues. Crusader Strike does not cost mana, and Blizzard even mentioned this in the previous post, where they wanted to add mana cost to Crusader Strike, but they didn't think about it. If they do this in 8.3, it'll be funny to see how this might work with ERT, Ever Rising Tide Essence, where you will be able to stack up, and if Crusader Strike is going to cost mana, this might become a decent essence for Holy Paladin. There's multiple design issues that are happening right now with healers. The basic summary is that if you're doing high-end mythic progression, Holy Paladin and Discipline Priest are going to be so dominant in high-end progression because of multiple things, because of their damage, because of the damage reduction cooldowns, because of how little mana Holy Paladin will consume with Glimmer of Light build. They make them head and shoulders above all the other healers, because other healers have to choose. Do I want to do DPS? Do I want to do healing? A lot of the people who are doing heroic content and watching this video, this is irrelevant. You don't need DPS for heroic content, and a lot of people might say, hey, I'm playing a healer for this long time, I've never DPS'd. Well, the meta this year, the meta in the last couple expansions, is healers have to DPS in order to progress higher end content. And if you're looking to do higher end content, you will have to DPS, regardless whether it's going to be raiding or Mythic Plus. And if you look at Mythic Plus balance, this is another thing. If you nerf Discipline Priests, if you nerf Holy Paladins, what's going to happen in Mythic Plus? Discipline Priest nor Holy Paladin are really dominating Mythic Plus scene. If you look at Mythic Plus numbers, you'll be surprised to see that, actually you won't be surprised to see at all, that basically it's all Resto Druids. At 19, 20 keys and things like that, it's all Resto Druids, and the other healers just kind of climbing up a bit, but the imbalance is absolutely insane. Druid is basically the king of Mythic Plus at higher end content, and nobody else comes even close to battling Resto Druids in terms of the utility they provide, the healing, the DPS. They're gods, and they have been gods for the last two expansions. So how do you deal with raid balance and Mythic Plus balance? Like, for example, I kind of wanted to talk about this before, where Discipline Priest, and this is not going to happen again this expansion, these are too big of a changes, but Discipline Priest has talents. They have in tier 100, they have Lenience, Luminous Barrier, and Evangelism. Evangelism is the #1 choice for any raiding Discipline Priest. Every raiding Discipline Priest will pick it because it's absolutely insanely good with their atonements, it prolongs them and things like that. In Mythic Plus, you kind of have more choices in terms of they're not all that great. Lenience is probably going to be your #1 choice. Luminous Barrier is probably never going to be a choice, but Lenience is becoming your Mythic Plus go-to. Why not have Lenience being replaced with a powerful single target heal in order to kind of fill in the gaps what Discipline Priests are missing in Mythic Plus, which is single target healing. They can really fall back. They also have other issues with affixes, with like bursting, grievous and things like that, but that's another story. You could have added a big heal instead of Lenience, so every time Mythic Plus Discipline Priest is gonna pick that big heal, and every time Discipline Priest is gonna do raiding, they'll always go with Evangelism. This change directly will be a buff to Mythic Plus and no buff to raiding. This is far too late for that to happen, because Blizzard has mentioned they're not gonna do big changes. This might happen in the next expansion. So right now, the summary again, summary number 2, there's not going to be major changes happening in 8.3. Blizzard is not going to add new talents. They're not going to add new spells. It's far too late. Blizzard will try to fight the fire that happened with Glimmer of Light, that happened with Discipline. They're most likely, in my opinion, they probably will nerf Glimmer because of the numbers in Mythic are just far too big. I think Glimmer is still going to be viable, and I hope Glimmer is going to be added. I really hope in the next expansion, in terms of maybe mastery, in terms of maybe some talent or something like that, I think Glimmer will be part of Paladins, because I feel a lot of Paladins enjoy Glimmer. To some extent, a lot of Paladins don't enjoy Glimmer as well, but I feel if you're given the choice of playing Glimmer or not in terms of talents or talent choices, that would be an interesting class design. So I really want to hear your opinions about how this balancing healer imbalance can be changed in 8.3. What kind of healing balance do you want to see in the new expansion? Maybe there's going to be a new healer as well, Tinker and things like that. We have to think about it. But overall, if you're not doing Mythic end content, don't worry about this. Honestly, it's not affecting you in any way, shape or form. If you're looking to push really high Mythic Plus, or maybe looking to get those, still, Mythic Ashara is still a very hard boss. It still, to some extent, can be done easier with the healers that I mentioned before. So the balance is still there, or the class meta, healer meta is still there. How would you change this? How do you feel about my suggestions, about my list of problems? Again, I don't think anybody wants any classes to get nerfed, and it feels terrible when your class is nerfed. But what other solutions would you come up with? Thank you guys for watching this video, and if you enjoyed the content that I provide, please do subscribe. It's really helping out the channel. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video.